did people first come to this island? You heard about the terrific ice ages? Yeah? They sort of came down and up and down, and they were huge, like glaciers, and it was like a crusher, a steamroller, so it moved rocks. And we were often at the edge. The River Thames is where it is now, but it was probably further up and further down. So all this crushing, you ended up with a lot of brick buildings. That's the main material. So brick, clay. What are the, yeah? Bricks are made from clay. Yeah. What are pots made from? What, clay. So before there was a need for bricks, they were making pots. So there's clay, there's sand, and there's gravels. Can you read what that says?
Early Iron Age pots found.
Iron Age is probably 2,400 years ago.
Wow.
So people were around here living 2,400 years, probably longer. Okay?
Can you tell something about your life?
I was natural history curator at Southend Museum. It's a small museum, but we are part of a larger group. You know, we have the Priory, Beecroft Art Gallery, South Church Hall. It's all part of the same organisation.
What is a priory? Priory was run by monks. They were a religious order, the Cluniacs. If you go over to Priory Park, the museum there's a model, and it's a huge farm, and that's what most of the people were employed doing. Cattle, sheep, they were growing everything. They had huge fish ponds. It was fed by
They drink
water. So what's the source of water that is here? Ah, good, yes, the brook. Right, the brook, Prittle Brook. Do you know what prittle means? Prittle means, it's a Saxon word, it means prattling or babbling. If you listen to the water moving, it was almost like talking, chattering, singing. The Prittle Brook has got a pathway most of the way, and it's called a greenway. And we're, yeah, sorry?
Prittle Brook Greenway.
What do you think a greenway is?
It's like a public footpath.
Yeah?
With like stinging nettles
Yeah.
and
Is it all like that though?
no.
No, because there are bits where it's just like shingle. It starts in Thundersley, it goes through Westwood, which is an ancient woodland,
Then it goes to Belfast.
and it comes, yeah, Belfairs, another ancient, and it comes all the way along, and like you say, it's got vegetation. I'm Ron Bates, local, my grandfather, my father, they're all allotmenteers, so always been close to the land and nature, and worked in small holdings. Taught, and then always used the Brook Path as a route to my mum's out of Barling, and so I'm quite familiar. And then my friend Graham, that I did a lot of things with, lived over the road.
I used to walk to school every day. I used to walk along that brook path, come home along the brook path, and this land here, what is now grown together, was just, it wasn't being used for anything. It was all overgrown, it was full of trees, and there were all these little pathways and bushes and undergrowth. And me and my friends, we used to always play on this land when we were small, when we were probably your age.
Was it really good for like playing lots of games in?
Definitely, yeah. Back playing on this land involved kind of like quite often falling in that brook and coming home soaking wet, and my mum would tell me off. And
I was born just after the war, and I lived in a house at the bottom of St George's Drive, and so when I was young I did like Graham did. I walked through the lane, I played here in the field. I don't know if you've got a favourite, something to play on in the playing field. Mine was the witch's hat, but I don't think it's still there.
it was like a magical adventure to us, like a really, it felt like a really wild place where you could be like kind of away from the streets and the cars and all that, So I suppose, you know, because of that, I've always kind of had an interest in this place. And then where we are now, where this building is now and out there, that was all allotments. Do people know what allotments are? You know, where you grow vegetables and that. So, and that was another thing, because in that part was wild, this part was allotments.
And this is a 1945 map. There's a little, you can see almost the shape, but it is much, much longer. Yeah, it's slightly changed shape, but that is growing together allotments. So it's been allotments since, well, before the war.
Yeah, Ron and I are very good friends. We've worked on garden projects and we've both got allotments and we're both very interested in things like orchards and woodland and sort of land for the people really, for the people of the South End, and you know, rather than land being kind of shut away and no one can get to it. Something we're both very interested in is like making land available to people so they can grow food or just have it as a space to kind of, you know, enjoy themselves, play, relax, whatever it is they want to do. So I guess that's the thing we've kind of got in common and how we kind of came together.
We went on a permaculture course, and from that he did a design on this derelict, as it was then, in 1996, derelict piece of land. And he found that there had been a previous thought of turning it into a community garden.
The council said they wanted to turn this whole area into a community garden, and for part of your permaculture course you had to design a piece of land somewhere. So the piece of land that I chose was this place, and I kind of came up with some ideas and I gave them to the council.
And that's when I first came to this site, because he lived over the road and we wanted to, because it was derelict, and thought that it ought to be looked after.
And then I kind of met Cherry, and she kind of had ideas as well about this place, which kind of, you know, as you can see, have resulted in what you're seeing here now.
Although I'd lived here as a child, I'd watched the allotments grow, I'd seen it all go into disuse, I'd fallen in the brook like Graham, I'd seen how the brambles were all straggling over the pavement, and it was an eyesore. But that was on one side. Another side was that I was worried about the mental health services in Southend. There were huge articles in the papers saying how bad they were, how people weren't being served properly. And I had a voluntary role at a psychiatric hospital where I saw that people were looked after there, and then when they came out, there was nowhere for them to go. So I gathered a number of people together around me who felt the same. We put on conferences locally. So our first conference, this was in 1999, it was called On the Edge. That's the first conference that we put on, a few of us. It was a conference with a difference around the challenging issue of mental health. So I went to the council and I found a department which was called Regeneration. And I put in a number of bids, and I've got them all here, but the key one was the Growing Together one. What we had to do was go through a whole process as to how this site could be developed. I'd never heard of Graham, not at that stage, didn't know anything about that other people had got any ideas at all for it. It just seemed to me, this is land, it's a rubbish heap, that's unfair, it's a disadvantaged area, and we've got disadvantaged people, let's put them together.
And then, I think in 2000, 2001, Trust Links started, and it's evolved into this amazing place.
Our small group, which we called Trust Links, we had to turn into a charity and a company, and that's the charity that's behind this project.
This place has become a hub for, you know, transition town. Lots of things come together here for the well-being of our society. Hopefully, you know, maybe change a very materialistic way. There's intrinsic things.
The Cheryl Centre was put forward by a chief executive that we had at that time, and we had to present the Growing Together project on television. And guess who won? Growing Together won! Yes! And the aim was to get money for a centre, a resource centre. We had other centres in the past, in churches, down in Fairfax Drive, but this was a centre on the plot and would make everything so much easier. So, as you said, your father was very much involved.
He wasn't the one who made the sign, but he was the one who said to make it with straw.
Your dad's very much part of it, and a lot of people were, because you couldn't just ring up and say, oh, I want all these builders to come and develop it. It was the volunteers.
A couple of friends mentioned this place to me because they knew it was about plants and growing vegetables and things, which I'm very passionate about. And I was very interested in supporting people, working with them. So that's when I became a volunteer. And through that, I gained lots of experience. I did my MVQ level 1 in horticulture, and post came up for horticultural support worker, and I applied for that. So I've been employed here since 2008.
In my professional life, before I worked in special education, and I did an awful lot of work with young people outdoors in woods, at Dunton, Plotlands, the museum, allotments, outdoor education, just getting people out and seeing the benefits and how that helped young people grow into quite socially mature people, and challenging them, helping them develop life skills, and this kind of therapeutic garden, it helps people get themselves back.
I went on to do my level 2 in horticulture, and that's a practical qualification. You do, propagate plants, make new plants, you do weeding, grow vegetables. And then later on, I went to study and do a RHS qualification. So I gained a little bit more knowledge there. But like you've been out in the garden today and wandering around looking at things, that's how you do most of the learning. And that's how I've done most of my learning.
You said, what do I like about
This place. This place.
the people?
Yeah.
The people. Definitely the people, over such a long time, and so many different kinds of people who get different things out of it in different ways.
Always lots of people coming and going. I do a music group here once a week with some of the people that attend here, and there's always just like so many people coming and going, and we'll be doing our music and people just be walking through, and I've got no idea who they are, which is kind of like, they're obviously meant to be here, but so it just shows that it's a thriving place with lots of comings and goings, and a lot of people getting a lot of different things out of it. So yeah, I think it's definitely working. I think Matt and his team, and they're doing a great job here.
But some people, it just sustains them, keeps them going, stops them dipping. So it's really, really important. I really believe that, and have seen all that.
I was only ever a volunteer. Sometimes I chaired the board, coordinated it to start with. But the idea all the time is to bring in new blood, bring in new ideas. And that's what heritage and conservation is about. You're not stuck with one person, one way. You look at doing things differently.
I like every part of the garden, but I probably have more interest in vegetable growing because I've had an allotment myself, like some of you, for many, many years.
When they first started growing, I gave them a load of tomatoes because they missed the seeding time. So just gave them loads of tomatoes for that first season, and gradually, popped in, talked, and then there was some work at the orchard at St Lawrence that came online in 2006, and I did some work on the management and bringing it round, and been involved in that since, and I ended up becoming a trustee for TrustLinks. I suppose, it's an overarching look at the place, and I'm quite grounded as a trustee. I'm quite practical. I help at the orchard. I suppose I know a fair bit about that and its history, and been involved in, via the Organic Gardeners, involved with Trust Links or growing together with apple days and also latterly potato days. And it's really all about the diversity, you know, getting away from the, red and white potatoes, because there's hundreds of varieties and they've all got different qualities. And apples, it's, you've got your over 2,000 varieties, and again, diversity of use, colour, shape, all those things, and they've all got amazing qualities.
I'm Pat Wortley. I'm with the South Essex Natural History Society. I happen to be the chairman, which is a bit of a job, that I have to look after things and arrange programmes and things like that. And we do talks and walks on different subjects. We might listen to Wales, talk on Wales one day. We might go out into Belfairs Wood and have a look at the woodpeckers and so on another day. So there's a variety of things that we do.
And I'm also very interested in sort of wildlife and conservation. And in my spare time, I'm involved with organising another group that goes out and helps in wild areas.
When the first naturalists started to form the society, they decided on an area that they would cover, which is quite large. It covers actually the Rochford 100, which is a parliamentary area, a whole of Rochford, right round Canewdon, right round to Benfleet. So it's a fairly big area.
And this is an ecological survey, and the white boxes indicate why it's important. It actually mentions growing together. Yeah, it says reptile, amphibian and badger activity in growing together project site. In Priory Park, what does it say? Water vole are reported to be there. And further on it's reptiles, badgers, water vole as you go towards the Roach. And all the way along here it's reptiles, badgers, mosses, rare mosses in the brook.
Wildlife, you might think that you can see them all moving around and so on, but for the plants they stay still. So they can go from weeds that you might see, which we think of as nice flowers really, but it can be trees or shrubs or even mosses, all sorts of plants and all sorts of animals, from your insects, your butterflies, your slugs, your snails, birds, mammals, newts, frogs, toads. So there's a wide variety of things. In Belfairs, for example, we've got records of over 2,000 different things, birds, fungi, plants.
It's all interconnected. Animals need the plants, we grow our vegetables out there to feed us. And the vegetables also feed all the wildlife, which I think a couple of weeks ago we were finding all the wildlife out there, the worms. It's all interconnected. And the bees love the wildflowers.
Like you cycle or you walk. How would other creatures, or how do they move?
Fly. Energy.
Fly. They need energy, or they use energy. How does a dandelion shed its seed? Do you know it? The ones that you blow it, but what happens? What's out there? Wind. Yeah.
We have organised in the past open days at Belfairs Wood where the public could come in and we would take them for guided walks through the wood. We would try to highlight the different trees or the different animals that way. And basically we try to inform the public in what we do in their talks in the Central Museum in Southend.
Each museum has collections, like they have collections of all sorts of things that are donated to museums. People give to museums lots of old things. It might be furniture or pots, and then you've got archaeological things, very old things that are dug up in archaeological digs. They are given to a museum. And also we have natural history type things. We have collections of butterflies and bees and beagles that have been collected locally, and then people donate them to the museum. And a curator is a person who, one of their jobs is to actually look after those collections and care for them.
What did they find recently, last 10 years, over by Priory Park? It was a Saxon prince, wasn't it? So there are the remnant. I think they're in the museum now.
The original inspiration was to save a wood, but it goes on today, trying to make the best use of wild spaces, hoping that they're not going to be built on, that there's enough left for the wildlife to survive.
Marsh, the mud, is actually incredibly rich. So that's why it's got amazing bird life that comes to the mud. You see it every winter down here. You see the geese come in, all the wading birds. So what's in the mud that brings them all here?
Food.
Absolutely, it's food.
Their prey, basically.
Yeah.
I come here for the organic gardeners who meet here, and the link between the organic gardeners and Trustlinks is that Trustlinks carries out organic gardening here. And for me, the fact that it's organic is very important. No pesticides.
Growing together, Trustlinks does all that, and I think organic principles, biological ways of growing with diversity, care for the whole environment. I think it all comes together. And the way you grow is, with, I don't know, not bare earth, but the organic biological principles, and I think that all melds together in sort of the well-being of our world, our people, and it helps people get well. That's what growing together's about. That's what I endorse, is that it benefits